everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rulla Alani, and today we will be talking about the top values to look for in a potential partner. So I'm going to be talking about some of the specific categories that you and this person need to discuss before getting into a relationship or marriage. A lot of us hear that opposites attract, and opposites do attract, but long-term opposites tend to have more difficulty. I think that there's a sweet spot when you and your partner are not polar opposites, but you guys aren't identical either, and you guys can truly bring out the best in one another. As I go through each of these categories, I think I'm going to kind of add my opinion on what my preferences are, but keep in mind that is just my personal preference. Obviously, you should have your own. So take note of your values. You're going to have such a better understanding of who it is that you want to attract into your life. Before I want to get into this topic, I want to read you guys a quote from this book, Evolution of Desire. I've been incorporating it into almost all of my videos lately, and it's because this book is just jam-packed with so much information about partnerships and mating and how over thousands and millions and billions of years we have evolved to choose the mates that we currently select. So the quote reads, "Discrepancies between partners in their political orientations, religious views, moral values, hobbies and interests, and even personalities can produce strife and conflict." So from this quote, we can see that although we always hear that opposites attract, truly you do kind of want to be similar when it comes to those fundamental identifiers. When it comes to religion, when it comes to politics, people tend to steer within their own circle. So this is just the fact of life. You might go on a date with someone and it might be super fun and super romantic and all these things, but are you guys truly going to complement one another long-term, decades down the line? That's what today's video is about, is choosing someone who's not just going to complement you for a night or for a date, but for the rest of your life. So you really need to take this exercise seriously. So the first thing that you kind of want to analyze is, what type of personality are you seeking? Do you prefer extroverts or introverts? There is such a huge range, right? Because even myself personally, I would say I have no problem being an extrovert, but I really do love my alone time. So I think I'm an extroverted introvert, if that even makes sense. But all of my life, I have had a clear preference in this category when it comes to the men in my life, and I have always, for some reason, preferred quiet guys. I don't know why, but I've always preferred a more introverted man. So that is my preference. Now for you, perhaps you are a huge extrovert, and for you, your lifestyle would completely change if you dated someone who is an introvert. In that case, you should probably seek out an extrovert. So you really want to kind of analyze your lifestyle and think about, is this going to cause conflict? I think with introvert and extrovert, it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day, as long as there's room for flexibility. For example, my partner and I would say I'm definitely more extroverted than him, but I am not a huge extrovert either. So I think we're both kind of in the middle of the scale. He is definitely more closer to being an introvert. I think it creates a nice duality in our relationship, because I can do things on my own and go to social events, and he will join me every now and then, but it's not like a must. So once again, that's just kind of how it works in my life. I've always been attracted to introverts, and I've always been kind of in the middle of the scale. So think about yourself, think about your life, think about where you fit on the scale, and think about what your ideal partner would be. Would they be an introvert or would they be an extrovert? The next thing we want to talk about is religion or spirituality. So are you religious? Do you practice a certain religion? Do you go to church? These are all questions that you need to answer, and in doing so, you need to figure out, well, if I were to have children down the line, would I want them to be raised in this certain religion? Now, if that's the case, then you definitely want to find a partner with those same kind of values. It becomes very difficult when one partner is atheist and the other one wants to raise their kids in a traditional religious environment. Nowadays, a lot of people mainly identify as spiritual versus religious, so you know, that's kind of nice because it allows more freedom and it's not as boxed in as it was before. But still, there are still some people who really want to find someone within their own religion, and that is completely okay. Just know what you want and know that it's going to be available to you. So I am someone who is spiritual, I do identify as Muslim, and I am open to dating someone of any religion, of any background, as long as they are comfortable, obviously, with my with my religion. And in terms of kids, I don't plan on having children, but if I were to have children, I would let them choose whatever religion suits them. You really need to talk about these things early on, because some people, it's like they have to marry someone from their religion or that's it. It's a hard no. So you really need to think about it. Are you willing to convert, or are you willing to go for someone who has a more conservative mindset when it comes to these things? So the next category is politics, and I know they say never talk about politics, especially while on a date, but you kind of need to, because nowadays a lot of people really don't want to get married or date outside of their political background, and that just is what it is. People tend to stay within the political confinement of their family, of their parents, and it kind of continues on when they choose their partner. So as far as I know, I think I've always dated within my own political beliefs. I mean, obviously if it was something that was not serious, then politics were probably not discussed. But definitely if you're going to get married, you should probably date someone from your own political background. I know that kind of sounds like stupid or childish, but it can cause a lot of conflict. I even myself have heard of households where a wife is one political belief and a husband is another, and it can wreak havoc, especially on kids and especially on just like peace of mind. So it's just easier to date someone who has the same world views, who has the same kind of beliefs in terms of like healthcare and war and like all of these things. I'm not even going to get into it because that is just a whole nother topic, and I feel like nowadays people are becoming more and more radical than ever, which sucks, but it just is what it is. So make sure to talk about your political orientation and definitely figure out if you're someone who would care about your partner's beliefs as well. Okay, the next category is career. So obviously, I doubt anyone is over here thinking, oh, my partner has to be in this career. But perhaps there are some people out there who think that way. For me, there's really only been one requirement ever, and that was that they had a stable career and a solid source of income. For you, it might be different. Perhaps you're studying medicine and you really want to marry someone who's in the same field, when that's completely up to you. I know that some people who have more creative careers, like let's say actors or musicians, they tend to kind of date other creatives. Just think about it. For me personally, I would identify as an entrepreneur, and at times I thought that, oh, it would be cool to date an entrepreneur, but when I really thought about it, I just needed to date someone who had a career that they were passionate about, and that just brought them fulfillment, because I really just can't stand people who hate their jobs, because I'm someone who absolutely loves what I do. So I just want to make sure that I'm surrounded by other people who are fulfilled internally, especially by their career, because it's where we spend most of our time. After career comes leisure time. So this is very important because it's how people spend their weekends. Are you someone who is super active during your leisure time? You like going to the gym and hanging out with friends, and you don't really like to just kind of lounge and hang out and just take time for yourself. So this is going to differ. I know some people's weekends are very laid back and they're more homebodied, and other people's weekends are just like all over the place. So you definitely want to talk about how you guys spend your leisure time. It's not that big of a deal, but it can become a big deal if you guys just have drastically different ideas for what leisure time looks like. That can create conflict. Along these same lines as hobbies, passions, interests, I think it's beautiful to meet people who have different hobbies. They don't need to be the same as your own, and it actually gets you outside of your comfort zone when you talk to people and date people who have completely different passions as you. So for me personally, I have no criteria when it comes to hobbies or passions or interests. I think that all of them are pretty cool, and I just want to obviously be with someone who has hobbies, because if they didn't have any, then that would be a big problem. Okay, so the next category is kind of health, wellness, diet, all of that stuff. For me personally, I definitely prioritize like organic food, clean eating, healthy eating. I'm in no way like a vegetarian or a vegan or a pescatarian. I don't limit myself in that way, but I definitely eat high quality organic foods 7 days out of the week, basically. However, I am someone who loves to indulge. Like, I love getting cocktails when I go out to dinner. I love getting dessert. I'm not someone who's like counting calories. So for me personally, I just wanted to find someone who was balanced, who was like everything in moderation. And I think my partner is the perfect image of that. He's definitely someone who, I wouldn't say he's as big on clean eating as I am, but he's definitely like not eating junk food every day. He's not drinking soda. He doesn't eat candy. And so we both kind of have our same mindset on that. In terms of fitness, I would love for us both to be more active. That is definitely on both of our priority list, is just prioritizing health, wellness, and all that, because I think for most of our lives we've just been prioritizing like work. But then it comes to a point in your life where you're like, okay, I can continue working and making money, but if I'm unhealthy, if I'm sick, then everything else is meaningless, right? So at this point in my life, I'm definitely prioritizing health and fitness a lot much more than I was back, you know, in my teen years. The next category is education. So some people are very, very particular about what kind of education that they need in a partner, whether it's a bachelor's degree or a PhD, or some people have some pretty crazy criteria to date them. For me personally, I've never been someone who was like, oh my God, the guy has to have a college degree, but he would have to be successful. So like, I'm completely okay with meeting a college dropout who ended up starting a business and becoming a success. To me, that's fine. Now, if someone didn't go to school, didn't pursue anything, and is just like a lazy bum, that's a completely different story. I highly value education, and when I say that, I don't mean just education in the sense of going to university. I mean being committed to learning. I'm in the industry of education. My business is in tutoring, so I very much value someone who likes to learn, who likes to read, who likes to debate, and go deep beyond the surface. And I'm just someone who is all about discovery, trying new things. So I have just always wanted to date someone who was open-minded, who was open to learning, who was not just so closed off and fixed in their beliefs. Think about this, talk about this to the person that you're dating, and hopefully it will give you more clarity. So the next few things we're going to talk about are kind of extra bonus categories. They're not like must talk about, but they're also good to discuss. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is family involvement. I am someone who prefers minimal family involvement. And when I say that, I mean that I've always had this idea of getting married being in such a sacred, divine union that nobody could touch. Like, not friends, not family, not anyone. The only person who could really build this bond was us two. And so I've kind of grown up rejecting family involvement in dating. I mean, even nowadays, if you guys watch my channel, you know that I actually stay away from meeting parents early on. I think that you should not meet someone's parents within the first few months. Outside influences are going to impact your opinion. They're going to impact your choices, and I think we need to evaluate an individual by ourselves on our own. And a family can be very, very pushy, or they can put you under under pressure to make a certain decision. At the end of the day, they're not marrying this person, you are. So think about family involvement and even just like caregiving in general, because in some cultures, as parents age, it is the kids' responsibility to actually bring the family into the home and to take care of them. So that is something that you and this person need to discuss. Are you guys going to do that? Are you going to put your families in nursing homes, or kind of what's the plan moving forward, and how close do you guys need to live to the family? How often will you guys be hanging out with the family? All these things need to be discussed because obviously you want to both be comfortable and on the same page. So we talked about family. The next category is friendships. How important are friendships to you? Are you someone who needs to hang out with friends several times a week? Do you need to have a partner who has a huge social circle? For me, friendships are honestly not very high on my priority list at this point in my life, so I've never really had a huge requirement here. I don't really care. I probably would care if my partner was all about his bros and hanging out with the guys every day of the week, but that's not the case, so I've never really had to address this category. But perhaps you will. If you're dating a younger guy who's, you know, in a fraternity or something like that, you're definitely going to need to think about the friendship aspect. The next category is intimacy, and as you guys know, I always mention to put a hold on intimacy, to put a pause on intimacy, especially physical intimacy, because you want to get to know someone mentally, spiritually, emotionally before you share your body with them, right? So that doesn't mean that intimacy is not important, though. I really want to make that distinction. Just because you should wait and hold out on intimacy doesn't mean it's not important. It's actually because I place so much importance on it that I want you to wait and not just give that away to anybody. So for me, intimacy is definitely something that needs to be discussed with my partner in terms of, you know, how do you show intimacy? Are you someone who needs more emotional intimacy or physical intimacy? How frequently do you need these things? Even like love languages can fit under intimacy. And just remember, people end up divorcing and falling out of love due to a lack of intimacy. So not discussing intimacy and not kind of setting up your expectations from the beginning is going to lead to failure. So make sure to talk about intimacy even if you are not already engaging in intimate behavior. It's important to discuss what your married life would look like. Okay, the next category is finance, and I think that this category should definitely be discussed, even though I know some people think that this topic is kind of more sensitive, shouldn't just be thrown around. I agree, but obviously if you're assessing someone to become your partner, then, you know, it's become more serious than just someone you met on a date. So in terms of finances, you really want to kind of figure out, are you guys going to have a prenup if you get married? Are you guys going to have joint accounts or separate accounts? For me personally, I've never been very adamant about this. I know that when I get married, I plan to have a separate account and a joint account, and I think I recommend that for most married couples. But it's definitely something you should be aware of. Who's going to be responsible for paying for the bills? How are you guys going to divide expenses? Is the man going to be providing, or are you responsible for that? This kind of goes hand in hand with like gender roles. Do you guys believe in traditional gender roles? Are you guys more modern? Do you guys believe in 50-50, or do you guys not? Is the woman gonna stay at home and be a housewife? Is the man gonna go out and work, or are you guys both gonna work? Are you guys gonna have nannies? You really need to talk about these things, and you can't just expect that people are on the same page as you. Like, for instance, I know on my channel I preach I do not agree with 50-50. I don't believe in splitting the bill on a date, but that doesn't mean that when I meet a guy I should automatically expect that he's on the same page, right? I need to be realistic, and I need to voice, you know, my opinion, and also kind of see what kind of behavior this guy is showing, because obviously if on a first date a guy is asking to split the bill, well then he's probably not going to be the right man for me. He might be the most amazing man for someone else out there. I just want you guys to have these conversations, because these things don't just go away. They only become more magnified and more evident the longer you stay with someone. Like, I have a few girlfriends who are doing 50-50 relationships as of now, but they don't want 50-50 marriages. And I'm over here like, well, why would you be doing a 50-50 relationship if you know you wouldn't like that in a marriage? As we all know, relationships tend to lead towards marriage. At least the right relationship will lead you towards marriage. Well, how is it leading you towards marriage if you have a dynamic that you wouldn't even be comfortable with in a marriage structure? So forget what society tells you. Forget even what I tell you. What do you want? I hope that this video was helpful. Make sure to subscribe before you head out, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye!